All right, everyone, welcome back to Humanize IT. We got Skip here again. We got a nice long run of Skip. Like this earlier this year, you were gone for like 12 weeks of the podcast. We had so
Yeah,
many guests on.
yeah.
If you're interested in being a guest, let me know. We always like to talk about to new people about different tech solutions and different areas of the industry. So we're always excited to have other people on. Anyways, but today we're talking about why travel is good for the soul, and more to the point, good for the business mind.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of people out there that they're working really hard, they're getting things done, but they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And so, if your business is stuck, it might be because you need a break. It's very simple.
Uh,
You cannot be creative if your mind is full, or the Asian philosophers will say, or Confucius will say, if your cup is full, you can't fill it anymore.
yeah.
And so you have to empty your cup before you can learn more and add more in. So going on vacation is a good way to empty your cup. It does a lot of things, like it establishes new neurological pathways. It activates part of your brain because for some reason, I think Andrea was the one who told me this. Is like if you take a different route home from work, you actually increase the creativity of your brain because it
Mm.
activates different neurons. If you drive the same route all the time, you'll suddenly realize that okay, you're home, but you don't remember the drive.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've done that a lot. Those
Yeah, well,
commutes
you
back and
drove
forth.
in Texas, so
Yeah.
like you just kind of zone out. Like your
Mhm.
brain does not need to be activated when you're on those long stretches and you know your exit and you know where you're going, and you can drive for 3 hours and be like, "I don't remember the last 3 hours."
There was one portion of my drive where it dawned on me one day that I'd been driving that portion of the roadway, every workday morning for 15 years. I had a job that was way out there. I did relocate, took another job, but it was just a bit closer. But I still, part of it was still the same drive. And that thing would happen so many times. Like, wait, I did stop at that red light back there, didn't I? I'm sure I did.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
it
you're like,
just,
"Oh, did I? Oh, man, maybe I hit somebody and I don't even know," you know?
it just, yeah, totally zone out. And, and that different perspective, the vacation part is really valuable. But when we were talking about this just a few minutes before we started, I I I immediately thought of this great experience I had while at work. And I worked for a pretty good size oil and gas company for many years. And at the time, they owned the the southernmost island off the Louisiana coast. And it was part of a land acquisition from acquisitions years and decades and probably a century earlier. Anyway, there's no oil and gas down there, right? But they have this island set up as a fishing camp, and they haul some barges out there every year for a executive getaways and team retreats and all this kind of stuff. Serious boondoggle stuff. And so I'm down there because it's near our operations, and I've deployed this great wireless network, and they want to bring it on. So anyway, this is how I end up on this island, but I end up having to stay overnight because radar equipped boats weren't available to get me back after dark. So I had to stay overnight. And they hand me the keys to these four-wheelers. I said, "Hey, go pick one. We're in here watching TV. These guys are off work and they're just hanging out. I'm kind of bored, and so I go, flying up and down the beach on this four-wheeler. It's a great experience. And I stop, and I know that there's four guys in the barge way back there, but other than that, I'm alone out here on this island, and just sitting there watching the waves come up, and as night fell, you could see all the oil platforms start to light up out on the horizon. It was just an amazing experience, and those new pathways, that what you were talking about, just being in someplace new, experiencing something that I'd never done before. I'm a desert West Texas boy, right? This concept of water as far as you can see is just, way out there for me. And that very dynamically different perspective from what was normal for me. It's not going to the lake. It's not taking a break and going camping. It's not going to a game or a festival or something. It was very, very different from everything I've done before. And that moment still, I mean, it's wow, it's almost 2 decades later, that moment in my mind still pops up as a kind of a visionary moment.
Yeah.
Think about things, and it positioned me, in looking back on that, it wasn't like this, milestone transition or anything, but I can see how things were a little different after that, just in the short term and in the long term. So, yeah, you've got to get out. You've got to see something different, do something different, or you're just always going to be doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's neat when you challenge your brain, and you have to think of, like, the biochemistry that's going on with what it is in front of you. So, like, when I drove the same route every day to school, when I drove the same route every day to work, my brain starts concreting this, like, this is useless information. I don't need to restore all this. And so we start getting into a rut. We start seeing the world in this one pathway in our brain, and it's very familiar to us, and it's comfortable for us.
Mm,
And if you think about your business routine is the same thing. You come in, you get your coffee, you go to your desk, you check your email, you talk to your staff, and you kind of like have this routine, and every day's the same.
yep.
And then some people, like with ADHD, will crave, like, I've got to change something,
Yeah.
anything. And you'll
Anything.
change things for the wrong reasons.
Hmm.
And I always say in the podcast, if you're having your best ideas in the shower, it's because you don't unplug enough.
Hmm.
That's the only time your brain is not staring at a screen and busy with the day to day.
Yep.
But when you get out, so I spent like 12 days here recently out in Red Feather, Colorado.
Mhm.
It's about 7,000 feet. I fished. I walked around the lake. I hiked. I went into towns. I saw some things that I usually like to see, and spent time with my dog, with my family, and, just while being there, you're sitting there staring at that water, that crystal clear water, and you're waiting for the fish to bite, and you're letting your mind just wander. But
Yep.
you're in a new environment. I'm not sitting in front of my computer, staring at the same wall screens, answering emails, and in the same routine. My brain is wandering around, and it's creating pathways and trying to connect what I'm seeing to things I know. So new activities happening in my brain because I'm in a new place. I'm having a new experience. And so that area of my brain lights up. This is why when people ask me what my favorite books are for business, I say anything fantasy related.
Yeah.
Pick up a sci-fi or fantasy.
Yep.
Get your brain challenged with something new and let it use that to be creative, to cross connect more neurons. Think about your biology, cross connect more neurons, help yourself become more creative so that when you come back to your business, you might connect to things that you did not connect before.
Hmm.
And this is why, like, see people like an Elon Musk or a Steve Jobs, they're weird people. You don't really want to hang out with them,
Yeah.
but they are very innovative and they connect things that other people don't.
Right.
And I think that's just because their brains aren't wired like the rest of us. If we were all wired the same, we would come up with the same solutions. If we keep doing the same thing every day, we're going to come up with the same solutions every day.
Yep.
And so get out and travel. And it's good for your soul, it's good for your mind, it's good for your business.
Mm.
And I cannot stress that enough. Like, the best ideas I have, how I get out of my ruts is when I go camping. It's good for our business. One, I get out of Skip's hair, you know? I get
Yep.
out of Skip's way. He can actually just work. I was not coming up with some new idea we all need to chase. We're actually getting things done. So, like, we spent this summer, like, really hard at work on some really cool stuff.
Yes. Yes.
And,
Really cool stuff.
like, what's next? That's that kind of got on my head while I was out there in the mountains. But instead of thinking about what's next in front of my computer or in my backyard or by my pool or my usual places, I'm thinking about what's next in front of a mountain lake that I don't go to very often.
Yep. And we've seen this historically as well. Someone off taking a sabbatical, right? Those aren't really popular nowadays. I think they were a bit more years ago, but there is a real value in that. Why would you take that? Um, and even just dialing things back a bit more when we didn't have kind of the luxury and the predictability in life that we had now. Um, there was a time when a lot of really influential people in the northern part of the U.S. would go south, right, during different seasons just to handle the weather, right, and vice versa. I mean, people would move around, and they had that luxury, all right. So I don't want to say it was just commonplace, but it wasn't just a luxury, right? It was looking at things from different perspectives, seeing things, moving through seasons. When your year becomes one long, unchanging season, that is probably a problem. All right. There should be variances. You should be doing different things at different times to get that different perspective on things. So, you know, going out and visiting field offices, that was one of the things that
Yep.
I I learned early on. We get in the rut. We're sitting, at the corporate office or whatever headquarters are, and we're just seeing the same old things. And we'd run out and do it. I worked with a safety guy, and he would go out, and he was a really. Sometimes when the safety guys show up, people get edgy, right? Because they think, but this guy was really good at his job. He had, operator experience and people respected him. And he would go out there and he would position it as, hey, does anybody need a gate opener today? Right? Because you're driving all these lease fields in oil and gas, and invariably you're going to pull up to a gate. You got to get out, open the gate, drive through, close the gate, right? So having someone else in the truck who would jump out and do that for you is actually kind of beneficial. But for him, it was getting out there, seeing what's going on. How are things operating? For me, visiting the field offices, just making the rounds. Now, in my role, I was at a divisional office, but we were kind of the tail that wags the dog sort of thing. All right. So we were the biggest divisional office, kind of the center of mass for a lot of things going on. But I had regular events to the corporate office. And there was always a time built in there where I just walked the entire floor to talk to different people to see how things are going on. So not necessarily what the topic here today of the travel, but very much getting out of the routine, seeing things from different perspectives, and those values that those really helped, you know, think about things differently and understand from different perspectives. So yeah, you've got to get out, do different things.
I think the big thing about getting out and doing different things is that we tend to like, oh, I like to go to Disney. And you'll do
Hmm.
Disney every time. And that's great. It's a great vacation. But it's not really traveling to a new thing. It's not a new experience.
Hmm.
So I almost feel like we should talk about how this is travel is great when it's a new experience. I mean, it's great to get out of your normal routine. And I'm not saying anything against Disney or if your Vegas is your thing or whatever your thing is. Like I like to fish. I like to camp. I tend to visit the same campgrounds, but then I try to go to 1 to 2 places that are brand new every year, at least. And I think, like when we travel, you need to think of like, give myself a new experience. What haven't I done? What experience don't I know? Get yourself into a culture where you do not speak the language.
Yes, I was just thinking of that actually. Yeah.
And that is a huge eye opener for me. Like when I realize I am in the minority here, like I am the person who has to struggle to think of new ways to get around. I have to like read these signs and I do not know this configuration of letters and symbols.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is think in terms of how do I do this differently? It forces you to do things differently. And
Hmm.
what's neat about other cultures is a lot of times they think differently. They have a different context to what's going on. And then you get to learn that. So I read Three Body Problem as a book. I know it's really popular right now because it's a TV show on Netflix.
Yeah.
But since it was written in Mandarin, origin language and origin culture was different. Same thing, same thing with a couple other books I've read. It was hard for my brain to consume the book, at least I should say harder than normal, because it was told in a different style. The same thing with Russian literature. If you read any, Tchaikovsky or anything like that, like, or Dostoevsky or what, pick one of your favorites.
Uh,
It's hard to read because you're not familiar with these family names. You're not familiar with this style of writing, and it's being told differently. And
yeah.
it expands the way you think because now you're like, "Oh, I never really thought about storytelling that way, or I never thought about culture that way. I did not think about siestas when I was in Spain. Like,
Yeah.
you don't shop during certain parts of the day. You find a
Absolutely. Yep.
you find a bar and you hunker down."
Yep.
And it's a different style of living.
Well,
And, you gotta get used to that. Like, I went to a village in Samana, the Dominican Republic, and they just had it was an old fishing village. It kinda got turned into an expat, touristy area. Not touristy, just a bunch of expats that were settled there and had different restaurants and things. And they all had their just this little, like, way of living, and it was this little slice of heaven. But it
uh,
was different than an American village, different than an American town, a United States town where, I can assume there's a bar over here, there's a gas station over here, there's a Walmart over here. This town's like, okay, I want to get dinner tonight. What do I do? Well, I ask my host, like, hey, who's serving dinner tonight?
uh,
And he's like, "Oh, yeah, Bob, is serving dinner at his restaurant tonight. You might wanna head over there. He's gonna do paella or whatever it is.
yeah.
He got a bunch of shrimp off of a fisherman today, so he's gonna
Yeah.
do a shrimp grill." "Oh, cool. Sounds great." And so you think of the world differently because you're challenged. If you wanna eat, you've gotta eat the way the culture eats.
Yep.
If you want to sleep, you gotta sleep the way the culture sleeps. And this helps you in your business because now you start thinking, there's more than one way to run my business.
Yep.
What other ways could I be doing? What assumptions have I made in my business and life that I could challenge? And your brain starts challenging standard pathways
Yep.
that you have set over decades. And now you're like, oh my gosh. And that's when you have an epiphany. Oh my gosh. What if people don't wanna do warranty lookups? What if the
Yep.
whole reason people are doing warranty lookups is just to check the asset age?
Uh-huh.
Check my assumption here. Ask
Yep.
other MSPs. Is the real problem here that you wanted warranties, or did you because it makes your life easier, or did you just wanna know how old this asset was? I also know how old the asset was. So if I took out the warranty lookup process and I
Uh-huh.
replaced it with, "Hey, I will build a table that just tells us how old any asset is." Would that work for you? And they go, yeah, because then we don't have to do an API call. We don't have to worry about the HP lookup program breaking every 6 months and us having to
Yep.
troubleshoot it. People's like, how old's my asset? It's a 2017.
Yep.
How do you know that? It's got the same processor that came out that year. They didn't release the processor after that. They replaced it with blah, blah, blah. We know it's a 2017. It's done. It's 5 years old.
Well,
Done. No one cares about warranties anyways. When was the last time you cared about the warranty on your car? When was the last time you
yeah.
cared about the warranty on any device, especially one that's so cheap? You
Yep.
don't. It's not like it's a big threat to your risk management portfolio. So what we really care about is like, is this asset depreciated?
Yep.
That's it.
That challenge is really, really important. So, I have a great opportunity to work with MSPs from around the globe. And, it just more every year, along with all the other ones that I've worked with. And while there are so many similarities, I do see differences in each one of them. So you do need to look at your business and challenge things there. Challenge your assumptions. Is this really the way I think it is? With the understanding, and we've kind of talked on this before, things change. Yes, that might have been a correct, assumption, perspective, one of your truth markers or something 5 years ago. But you need to come back and look at that again. Is that still the same thing? And you can't just assume. So that challenge element is really, really important. Just like in your personal life, in your business life, you need that to see things from a different perspective. It may validate what you already knew, which
Yeah.
can allow you to more confidently double down on it. It can allow you to communicate that truth better to your teams and your customers. But if it's not the truth anymore, well, now you know, and you can begin to look for the truth that you need in that situation going forward. So that challenge element is really, really important.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea. The challenge element. And some people get their rocks off on rock climbing, right?
Yep.
They
I like
challenge
that.
themselves to a new thing. Some people try to like yes, last night I was just telling a story to Skip that I just started walking with my dog and I was going to do my normal route and I got this bug in my head that said, "What's on this road?
Yep.
You ever take this road? It's a little gravel road. Is it a driveway? There's some apartment complexes over there. Maybe I can cut through there." And so I walked down and no, this is a personal driveway. This is a really long one. We have this weird thing in Nebraska where we have all these farmhouses that have been consumed by the town
Hmm.
and they don't give up their land.
No.
And so you'll be like wandering around a standard city and then you'll come across this gravel driveway and it goes to this old farmstead and
Yeah.
they're gorgeous. I mean, they're just this very cool to be in the middle of like a stereotypical neighborhood and then you see this farmstead
Yeah.
right there. Anyways, so I started walking and then I was like, well, okay, that's a dead end. So let me go back. I thought, well, why don't I just hop across the 4-lane highway here? So Missy and I dodged traffic, my dog and I dodged traffic, and we got
Like
across.
Frogger
I'm
with
like,
your
oh, there's
dog.
a field over here. I think some of my friends practice over here. And so I went over there. They weren't practicing that day. It's like, oh, well, I might as well go a little bit further. And so I just kept like making decisions and I did this path. And eventually I ended up like 10 miles away from my house. And, my dog's dying. Like, crap, I gotta find some water for her. And I knew one of my friends was nearby, so she brought out a bowl of water and we chit chatted. And I hadn't seen her in a long time, and we caught up. And this whole idea of like just wondering, this wanderlust,
Mm-hmm.
letting my brain just kind of choose paths and see what happens. And I found little cool nooks and crannies in neighborhoods. I used to do this on a bike a lot, but instead of having a plan, why not just wander? When you go somewhere, why not try to discover something new? Walk down a street you've never taken before, drive in a way you've never done, do something and explore and challenge yourself with a new experience to see if you can and see if that creates something new in your brain. And that challenge is what's going to help you in your business to say, are there assumptions I need to challenge in my MSP? Are there assumptions I need to challenge in my job? Have I just assumed this for so long, it's become normal for me and the world is passing me by? Same thing with everything. You don't always have to challenge everything. You should challenge occasionally, though. You should
Yep.
stay the course. I cannot impress that enough. If you change directions all
Yep.
the time, everybody's going to give up on you. But if you
Yep.
stay the course, but then you're like, challenge an assumption. Maybe you need to move a little bit to the right. Maybe move a little bit to the left. Maybe you need to take a hard right hook and do
Yep.
something different. But you got to ask yourself the question rather than just sitting in that chair doing the same thing over and over again, wondering why it's not different.
Well, your course may not change, but the method that you're using to drive towards that can definitely be adjusted. And so I think that's where we even small changes in different areas can sometimes really help things out. If there's just this one little thing we always assume is a problem, all right? and we've looked at it before and we know that there's no fix for it, right? Well, maybe it's time to come back, all right? Because fixing some of those little things can have ripple effects across our organization. So you might not be making any drastic or even minor course changes, but all the little things that go on every day in helping you get to where you want to do, even evaluating those can again have those ripple changes across your environment. So
Yeah.
there's plenty of opportunities to challenge your assumptions and to see things from different perspectives.
Yeah. Challenge yourself. Travel.
Mm,
See the world. Find something new. Find like you look at my background, these are all places I have been. These are little like nooks and crannies I found in the world. See if you can find them. They're neat. There are
yeah,
neat things out there that will change the way you think in good ways. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming on, Skip. I
you
love
bet.
travel. I love talking about travel. I could have stayed at that lake and explored those mountains for another 2 weeks and still not have been tired of it.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. We'll see you all later.
See ya.